Welcome to Aviation Careers Podcast. My name is Carl Valeri, and I've been a career coach since 2001 for those folks in aviation. Well, there's a big looming shortage of qualified mechanics. So how are the MROs, the maintenance, repair, and overhaul shops, and also the potential employees going to navigate the future hiring environment? You know, you're going to be surprised by what you'll discover in as far as the future hiring environment. Today, we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about it with the CEO of Elliott Aviation, Michael Parrish. Elliott Aviation has successfully been providing aircraft solutions, including sales, FBO services, and more. We're going to focus on what an MRO does and also talk to Michael Parrish about Elliott and how it's actually built a successful business. And also another thing we're going to talk about that I think is key is why culture is so important when you're choosing a future employer. Hey, Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited about this because as you know, I'm a huge advocate of mechanics in this career of maintenance, and also the fact that when you're choosing a job in the maintenance field, it's really important to choose a position but doesn't just fit all the other boxes. It fits the boxes of your self-fulfillment, and that comes down a lot to culture. But before we get started, Michael, I love to hear about how people got started in aviation. So just tell us a little bit briefly about how you got into aviation.
Yeah, typical young kid. I grew up, in the South, and finished school, went to a military academy, and got out and trying to find my way in the world. I had a passion for aviation. I grew up, my father was a private pilot, and so I spent a lot of time in the seat, watching what he did and flying up and down the coastlines in Florida, and just had a real passion for it. He took me to a lot of private pilot AOPA shows and things like that, so I had the bug at an early age. Just like every young child, they have this, dream to be a pilot or a fighter pilot, etc. And I just had a real knack to do things with my hands, and I like to build things. I was real, just creative, and joined the military, and the opportunity presented itself, and I worked on helicopters. Worked in special operations. It gave me the ability to travel the world, do a lot of neat things behind the scenes, and just really open my eyes to the potential. And, I consider myself fortunate. I hear a lot of the stories of people that rolled into opportunities, but I really started grassroots. I started out, long shifts, dirty fingernails, working in the grease and the oils and the hydraulic fluids. And I have a real affinity for what our technicians go through in the MRO environment.
One of the things that I think is important when you're listening to your story is to realize that you really do have a passion for aviation. And I feel that's important. I know a lot of people say, don't follow your passion, just follow the money. I don't think that's true at all. Because if you follow the passion, I feel that the money will follow, but also a wonderful life will follow. I wonder what you think about that.
I agree 100%. I'll tell you the story of how it came about for the business side. I had reached that point in a career where I either was going to stay in the military and make it a career, or get out and try the other side of the spectrum, so to speak. And I got out, and one of the first ads, this was back before all the online opportunities, I actually answered an ad in the Atlanta Journal. And a gentleman was hiring for a sales position with an aviation company. And I went through the interview process, and it was a startup company, somebody with a lot of experience, and I was the first employee that he hired. And together I helped that gentleman build a business. And he really taught me the foundation of the business side of aviation. So I was able to bring my experience from a mechanic's point of view and his experience from a well-rounded business owner and entrepreneur, and blend the two together and formulate a really solid company that today that business is thriving. But that started the foundation. But that all came about because I was willing to take a chance and not go for the money up front. He said, if you're willing to be patient, the opportunity will be there. And it did. And it just progressed.
And in following your passion, many times you see opportunities rise because you're open to that. And if it's something you really love, you're going to spend more time looking at all the different opportunities, which is, I think, really important. As far as this business is concerned, and as far as that actual building that business from where you were till where you are now, I think a big part of that is not just the fact that you were astute from a financial standpoint, but also from those personal touch points, the relationships. And I feel it's very important to build a culture. And also, as looking at it from an employee standpoint, I think it's important to look at the culture of a business. So how did Elliott do that as far as building that culture over the years?
I think, it's very important for me. I just finished a lot of communication internally within the organization here. And, I made a few statements that really kind of set near to my heart. And one of the statements I made was, it's a great feeling when you walk an organization and people are smiling, and it's not just for pictures. It's a sincere, you have to remember that people spend 60 to 70% of their livelihood at the place that they work. We spend more time at work than we do with our families. And if you're in an environment where the culture is not where it needs to be, or it's a bad place to work, that spills right over into your personal and home life. And it's the ripple effect. So it's very important for me to make sure that when people come to work each day, it's a place where they feel empowered to make decisions and do things, and they feel proud of where they're at and what they're doing. Sense of pride within the workforce. So we do that by empowering our employees. That's the way you build a culture. If I'm at the top of this, corporation, and everything is just driven down, that's not the way. It's from the bottom up. I mean, we get our best ideas, and the best decision making comes from the floor. And you've got to be out there as a leader. I can't lead from an office.
Absolutely. So if someone's looking at a business like yours, like Elliott Aviation, and just in general, there's some traits that I look for, and I'm sure that you do, is actually not just talk about the culture, but actually implement a great culture. One of them, I feel, is just investing in us, in the employees. How do you do that at Elliott?
I've said this over the years. When you've been with an organization for 20 or 25 years, especially in a technician base, they are often not going to leave you after that kind of lineage for a few dollars an hour to take the next job down the street. It often goes back to the culture of a business, the investment in that person or their teams that they represent, tooling, training, the intercompany itself. So that's how we do it. We need to make sure that we're continuing to invest, offer them the opportunity for growth. And that doesn't always come down to a title or a position. It's just affording them the opportunity to learn and not become stagnant. So we make sure that we're continuing to invest in our equipment, our facilities, our people, and that kind of builds that esprit de corps that people feed off of and others want to become a part of.
One of the things that I think is a challenge for someone who's looking for a job is trying to stand out and trying to show that they're more than just their resume. How do you do that?
I find myself fortunate on an individual level. I had an opportunity in my career where my resume unfortunately didn't speak for what I felt I was and who I was at the time. It took a very strong recruiter to actually call the hiring manager and say, you need to just have a conversation with this young man. And I'll be honest, Carl, I mean, the gentleman took a chance. We had a 1-hour phone call, and the rest is history, and here I am. So I look at certain characteristics on a resume. I have a very strong belief that there's a big distinct difference between having experience and being experienced. So we look for key attributes. Another thing that we do is we touched on the fact that the talent within the MRO and the aviation industry is becoming sparse. And the only way that we're going to fill those needs is by younger talent and newer talent coming into this industry. And part of what we're doing is a stronger, more stringent assessment of that new talent. You can tell, I've got two boys of my own, and I can tell who's got aptitude and the ability to learn and who doesn't. And if you do that on the front end and you do it right, you're setting yourself up for success in the investment long term with that individual.
Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't as far as the talent is concerned. But a lot of times, like fishing, you just got to go out there and cast, and what you bring in might turn out to be better than you think. And that's the attitude
100%.
I think you have to have all the time. Sometimes it doesn't turn out that way, but if you keep casting, eventually you're gonna fill your net. One of the other things that's interesting about this time is that we're trying to convince people to get into maintenance. To do that, I think it can be a challenge relating to this generation, the generation that's coming up, I should say.
Right.
How do you do that? How do you go about trying to relate to the current generation?
It became very technical, very computer oriented over the last decade. I talked to a lot of individuals that run airframe and power plant schools, and as fast as these students were coming in, they were going into different industries. The race teams, the industrial plants, power plants at dams and other manufacturing companies, just because they have the aptitude to learn. And it goes back to what you touched on earlier. They see a quicker path to financial gain. And aviation is sometimes a slow grind, and the financial stability and ability to earn is there. It's just not as quick in a lot of cases. We have seen over the last, I say, coming out of COVID, there's been an uptick in the aviation industry. It's like we came out of the fog and everybody saw that, yes, the cliff is there, and suddenly the workforce retired a lot faster than people anticipated. So what we had hoped to be a 10 or 15 year wall happened in 5 years. And so we had to step up quickly as organizations and start looking at pay, benefits, long-term benefits for employees, the organizational health as a whole. And I think we really saw an uptick in that, what we had to offer people wanting to come into this, and it became more attractive.
As an industry, there are a lot of challenges in reaching out to people because of social media. Because no matter what, I know after this video, we're going to get comments that are very negative. You should never become a mechanic. Go do something else.
Right.
But you have to realize that a job is specific to a person. So someone wants to be a mechanic. If you're watching this or listening and you want to be a mechanic, don't let anybody steal your dream, because this is something that you may find can really blossom into something you never expected, just like it has for you, Michael.
100%. This wasn't what I originally planned. I said I thought fighter pilot. I actually had an affinity for accident investigation and the NTSB, all of these different things. But the world guided me down a different path, and I knew what I was meant to be once I started, and I never let up.
Absolutely. Interesting, a part of that is that in attracting people and not giving up is to constantly look at all your options and all your opportunities, which, by the way, there's many ways to get into maintenance, and you're not just on your own. There's many ways to pay for that. There's different types of internships, et cetera. By the way, our sponsor of our podcast, they actually have a free scholarships guide that is out there. And it's really amazing. If you go to aviationcareerspodcast.com/free, you can find out more. And that is one of the things that I really am passionate about. Everyone should try to get a scholarship, but also look even deeper into things like internships, which, by the way, is that something that you folks offer?
Yeah, we have in the past. We've done a lot with engineering, different aspects of the business outside of just maintenance. We've had marketing internships, just anything to do with the overall business operation as a whole. But we do align ourselves with numerous A&P schools. And we do offer some of the same recoupment for license obtainment, educational benefits, things like that. But I agree, that's the path of the future, is this young talent that wants to learn and get into aviation. because what we've seen are the days of you and I going into a field and making a career with 1 to 2 companies. That's not the norm. The average tendency is for a young individual to move every 3 to 5 years. So you need to be able to cement that footprint with that individual, and both of you need to be, it's a give and take. You need to be able to get everything you can from that relationship and to be able to, for that employee to give back. And the hope and the intent is that they stay with you long term.
We've talked a lot about, in generalities, about this industry, but I think a lot of people listening to this are new to the field, and we talked about MRO, maintenance, repair, and overhaul. First of all, what in general does an MRO do? And then also, maybe you could extrapolate on all the different and expand on the different job opportunities in that field.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I've been married for 34 years, and if you were to talk to my father-in-law, he still couldn't tell you what I do. He just knows I'm in, and a lot of my family's that way. I think my father is probably the only one because he's got the aviation bug, and we're pretty close. But I tell everybody that has no idea, it's a lot like an automobile dealership. We're a Chevrolet dealership for airplanes in the sense that we represent a lot of manufacturers, and we are able to provide warranty work on their airplanes. And we also offer the outside benefit to retail customers. We can do everything from the normal scripted maintenance inspections to anything you want to do with an airplane, paint, interior, avionics upgrades, mandates. But we also buy and sell airplanes. We have a brokerage side of the house, our Elliott Jet side of the business that, they consistently deliver. We've got some manufacturing side of our business. There's any number of elements to what we do. We're not just a bunch of maintainers that just fix airplanes. We've got a pretty vast business model.
So the person that's maintaining, do they get to see that? Do they get to have all those touch points and be able to see all those different sides of the business?
Yes, they do. They're intricately involved. I mentioned marketing earlier, stuff like that. We've got employee channels on TikTok. We're very active from a feed standpoint. We're fixing to wrap up we're Garmin's largest dealer. So we do a lot of flat panel installs, and we're fixing to wrap up a campaign where, we're documenting the 15-day chronological, steps, and our employees get to be a part of that. And those are the kind of things that customers feed off of. My stance on social media, I'm an old sales and marketing guy, is, tell people what you do and then show them the people that are doing it. You can't do enough of that. That's me standing up and telling everybody what it is that we represent. That's great. Showing them the people that are actually doing it, and the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, absolutely. And where are they going to be able to find that, by the way? I'd love to follow that. Is that going to be on your YouTube channel or on your website?
Yeah, we've got multiple sources. We have a TikTok channel. We do a lot on LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. But most people can visit elliottaviation.com, 2 L's, 2 T's, and it'll have links and hyperlinks to a lot of the good stuff that we're going and news feeds. But we have got a pretty pronounced social media presence. So.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I love it. I love sending people like yourself, if they want to understand what a job is in an MRO, or what it's like to run an MRO and other things. I mean, obviously there's other things you do. You can just find out more just on social media. And I think, people that take the time to do that, I just love. I think it's great what you're doing, and it's helping me point people in the direction of becoming a maintainer, or even in sales. I mean, all sorts of really cool things that you have out there. I think that's awesome.
I would agree. And I think that's what's helped me, Carl, over the years is I've been involved in sales for the last 20 years, sales, marketing, business development. And that's what's helped me as a leader is the people side of the business. Listen, I learned something from everyone I've worked with in aviation. I've worked for strictly operations folks. I've worked for folks that are in sales and marketing roles. But the people side of the business, it always wins in the end. I understand the customer perspective. I have to walk that line between our business and the customer side of the business, and create win-win scenarios, and you've got to have the people component of that.
Absolutely. Looking at this industry and just coming to a conclusion here, I think that we really do need more maintainers. But one of the things that we have to convince people is that this is a good job and that there's opportunity out there. I like to point people to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS.gov. I'll have a link down below. And that actually will tell you there is a growth. And as far as employment changing, a year-over-year employment change, the highest portion of that's going to be in the avionics maintainers, and they're looking at like 8% and 5%. But just look at it this way. There's going to be over 13,000 openings for mechanics and technicians each year. And that's actually really, really good. I mean, it's not a shrinking market at all, is it?
No, it's not. And it gets very technical. I look at some of the avionics technicians that we have, and, I have had the luxury of having multiple individuals that I've worked for over the years and worked with that have come in from different industries. And it's very eye-opening in the first 30 to 60 days when they walk through MROs to walk out in the shops and see these technicians that are classified as maintenance technicians. A lot of these folks are working on master's degrees. Some of them have doctorates. They're very well versed in engineering and diagrams and schematics, and they're very, very bright people. And I said my old story is one of my neighbors said if she had to do it all over again, she would have married an airplane mechanic. Just based on the fact that there's nothing around my house that I can't find, figure out, or fix. And it's just the way mechanics are wired.
And another part of that, too, which is very interesting, I found in working with mechanics over the past few decades and helping them with careers, is that sometimes you find that aviation may not be the industry, but these skills can be used in others. A big one is in boating and the nautical industry. I mean, a lot of people, or some people I should say, wind up moving into that industry because they really have an affinity towards boats. And there's a lot of similarities there, aren't there?
Absolutely. There was a time, and it's still going now, but a lot of these students that are coming out of the A&P schools and folks that had gone into the race teams and things of that, automobiles. It goes back to what we started this conversation with, an aptitude to learn and the ability to be technical and do things with your hands. And that's what it comes down to. There is a distinct value to somebody that can read something on a schematic and actually perform that. And there's a lot that can get lost in translation. And let's face it, what we do, although it sounds cool and it is neat, and when you walk the shop floors, it's a very attractive business to be in, it's dangerous work. I mean, the people's lives, it's critical. I mean, it's important what we do. So that's my claim to people that want to get into this. It's not just changing oil on an engine. You're doing some mission critical work where safety is first and foremost.
Absolutely. As a pilot, I do appreciate the mechanics because, I really have to put my trust in them that they did everything right and they're looking out for me. So that's something that I think is very important, is the fact that they work with integrity.
It is. We had the luxury. They just had the Quad Cities Air Show last weekend here in the Quad Cities area, and we had the luxury of hosting the Thunderbirds outside of our facility, and we worked collaboratively with either them or the Blue Angels, whoever's in rotation. And it's very neat to see the affirmation from the pilot to the grounds crew. They treat them like royalty. I mean, because, while they may get the attention at the air show and shake hands and sign all the autographs, these guys and gals were the ones back here changing the engines at night and doing everything to make sure that continued to happen. But those pilots treated them like royalty. And it was great to see. It's a fun industry.
Absolutely is a fun industry. One of the things that I really want to touch on, though, is that, a lot of us think that since we don't know how to turn a wrench, or we don't know how to select a wrench or a screwdriver, we can't get into this industry. And that's not true, because there's many different skills throughout the industry that you have to have, aren't there?
There are. Aviation is a broad term. Here, for instance, at our headquarters, we've got materials departments. There's so many aspects that can actually touch the airplane without actually touching the airplane. We've got IT departments, sales, marketing, parts, materials department, engineering. There's so much that you can do, and we brought people in from from NASA and other components that have brought into this, from manufacturing, the boating industry, IT. And once you get into it, you find out that it creates other opportunities, and it's definitely a broad-based industry.
It sure is. Before we finish up here, there is one question I get every time I talk about MRO and maintenance. And the one question is, why would I become a mechanic on a local level when I can go work at an airline? And, we hear this over and over again.
Right.
So how would you answer that?
Well, I get the same feedback from employees. It's no secret, and we talked about it, is that there is a shortage at the airlines. And so the tendency is to financially, try and obtain those employees quickly. They have a need that they've got to fill. So, what we do and what we offer at the local level is more of what I consider a family feel. It's that culture. It's not to say that the airlines are negative. There's nothing wrong with it. I've got tons of friends that work there, and we've got lots of employees that have come and gone to the airlines. People have built careers there. But a company like Elliott offers that smaller shop feel with the larger capabilities where you don't feel like a number. I was in the military, and I had a social security number, and that's what they knew me by on paper. At Elliott, when I walk the floor, we've got hundreds and hundreds of employees, but I still know whose kid had a basketball game that night, and what their children's names are. And it's that small shop feel that I grew up in that keeps people coming back and keeps people engaged. And that goes back to the culture of a business. I want people to know that we care about them, we're concerned. They're not just a number and a paycheck and a representative to a final fiscal dollar amount for us. This is a business, it's a brand, and it's an organization, because we want our customers to feel that same sense when they come in, that it's not just a transaction. We're there to support them, and I want our employees to offer that same sense to them.
Well, if somebody's looking for MRO services, or if you're someone interested in a career, make sure you check out Elliott Aviation. It'll be a link at the bottom of this website. But they are doing so much on social media, if only to go out there to find out more about the industry and more about jobs that are there. You also might find a business that you might be interested in joining. And the other thing, too, is you're going to find someone who's a real advocate for aviation, Michael Parrish, and somebody who loves what he does. And that's something I really like about you. It really does shine in when you're talking and also in your business. But if you're interested in this as a career and you don't know how to get started, feedback at aviationcareerspodcast.com. We'll send them over to Michael. He'll answer those. Also, check out their website at elliottaviation.com. That's with 2 L's and 2 T's. And you, too, can find out more about becoming a maintainer, a painter, whatever it may be. It's all
absolutely,
out there. It's all
absolutely, Carl. Yeah, I think that's the biggest. That's probably the biggest positive of my job, is talking to some of the young talent that wants to come in, even if it doesn't afford us the opportunity to hire them. I love to be able to kind of help mentor and guide them on the right path.
It's important to find a mentor, and whether it's through Elliott Aviation with Michael, just email Michael. And also, of course, we have the mentorship program, aviationcareerspodcast.com/mentorship. It's one of those things that we have found is so important, is to have a place where you can get some unbiased information, and information from somebody who's been in the industry and has experienced it. And that's what's been so wonderful about having you on the show here today. It's just been great learning so much about the field. We could probably talk for hours and hours about all the different intricacies in the business.
Yeah,
for sure. But elliottaviation.com, you can find actually all their social media there too, and link from there. And make sure you do check out our sponsor and some of the free scholarships guys that they're giving away. And that is Stratus Financial, and they're doing a wonderful job helping people get into this industry. Visit our sponsor, Stratus Financial, where dreams take flight. Stratus Financial offers loans for pilot training, and they understand your needs because they're pilots. You can find out more at stratus.finance. Whether you're financing your dream of flying or simplifying the process by taking care of your student loans, their efficient, hassle-free funding can connect you to the life of your dreams of becoming a professional pilot sooner than you ever thought possible. Visit them at stratus.finance. As a sponsor of this podcast, Stratus Financial is giving away scholarships guides, and you can get yours for free by using the coupon code STRATUS. Visit aviationcareerspodcast.com/free and use that coupon code Stratus. Again, and please visit our sponsor, stratus.finance. But as far as anything else, anything that we might have forgotten or you want to close with here today?
No, absolutely. I think this is a great thing that you're doing for the aviation community. I think getting the word out that, I think you touched on it multiple times and we talked about it. There is far more to aviation than turning a wrench and pulling on a yoke. There's a lot, and it's a pretty diverse industry, offers a lot of growth, of potential, and it's just neat. It really is. It's a cool industry, a fun part to be of, and I'm very proud to represent it, represent my company, and I appreciate what you're doing for the industry.
Well, Michael, thanks so much, and that was very well said. And if you're somebody who's interested in getting into aviation, do me a favor. Just don't stop here with this video. After this is done, do something. Do something today to move forward in your career, in your life. Take that one step. Maybe it's going to elliottaviation.com and finding out more about the different jobs in MRO, because the industry truly is more than turning wrenches and pulling on a yoke. It's something that I think that we can all get passionate about it, whether it's in the maintenance field, pilots, flight attendants, managers. It is a wonderful field, but do something for me today. Take that one step today to move forward in your career and in your life, and you'll move forward quicker than you think. Have a great day. Wonderful to see you also, Michael, and thanks for being here.